Men turning their back on each other and striving to be the 1% is what is causing the male loneliness epidemic. I just spent the last hour watching this podcast. They're basically talking about what are men and women struggling with in today's dating world. So let's start with what women are struggling with. So basically, it is statistically true that younger women are outperforming men for the first time in pretty much forever. So what are these powerful, high-achieving women asking for in male partners? Number one, being over 6 feet tall, and number two, making over 100,000. Or just being high-performing or high-achieving in some way. That's 2% of men. So in that regard, it really is true that a big percentage of women are really going after the top men. Like, if you are a top man in today's age, if you're over 6 feet tall, if you're relatively handsome and you make a lot of money, you're killing it. But let's be...
But I think that is probably less than 1%, and I think that all women are saying that that's what they want. What they get is a completely different conversation, but let's continue.
Honest, majority of people are not that way. So the only real actionable advice for women at this stage is to date short kinks and guys who potentially make less or have more of a slow burn attraction. And what should guys do? They're essentially the problem. Why is that? Men abandoning other men. There has always been initiatives by women to empower each other and bring each other up, but the same types of communities just don't exist for men. Right? This whole male loneliness epidemic is a male problem. And this guy in the center, he does mentoring for a lot of young men. He says, okay, what's really happening with guys, instead of trying to step up to the plate and improve themselves and get women to actually want to sleep with them or be with them, they're opting out. They're turning to porn and video games and things to completely dissociate from society, basically, because they already see themselves as losers. And like, that's sad. Like, that is really sad. And I'm really, I am empathetic.
I'm not sure if they see themselves as losers. I'm sure that there's a segment of men that maybe do, but I think that the blanket label being applied across the board is probably where the conversations get a little bit disingenuous, because there are men that just really don't care. It's not that they're losers. It's not that they can't. It's more or less that, that they are scared of divorce versus actually getting married, and B, they would just prefer to spend their time focusing on the things that they like instead of trying to compete to get with women that they don't feel like is ideal or is uncooperative. So there's a gray area in this conversation that's probably not being had because we are so focused on whether or not guys are trying to compete for women in the same way that women are trying to compete for men. Because women have become ultra competitive when they realize that they are still in their nature looking for a man. They may have changed what their preferences are, what they're able to attain versus what it is that men want is completely different conversation. And even if these women are getting to the highest level as far as education or earnings or whatever, and I'm not going to get into the data and statistics because I've already done it in other videos and that's not a part of this conversation to an extent, but the nature of what men are still looking for has nothing to do with women think that they're achieving. And so that is a part of the equation. And I know that Quentin was telling me about this guy, this Diary of a CEO thing, and I might have to go and check it out because I'm not sure that I've ever actually seen anything long form or I've ever actually checked out any of the long form content. And I'm sure that it's probably good, so I want to look at it for myself. But there is some nuance in these conversations. There is some gray area. There is some extra context that we need to add, and it's that there are some guys. Of course, listen. Of course, people need to self-improve. Of course, people need to be the best version of themselves. That's already understood, and so that's what we do. We push people. We try to advocate for them to do the thing that's in their best interest. I think that I'm personally an equal accountability partner, and that I'm always looking to push men or women or hold them accountable for what it is that they need to do when they come to me and ask questions or have the conversation. However, the other side of it is that it's difficult for you to, even for the rest of us, right? Even for the 99% of everybody that's just normal, that's normal everyday human beings, right? There are people that are deathly afraid because not only did they see it, but for example, there are no real available women past a certain age that don't already have a kid and is divorced, and no guy wants to be a stepfather. I'm sure that that's not a part of the conversation. Why would a guy want to compete for a woman that's already been picked over so that they can take care of another man's kids? You see what I'm saying? So there's more nuance into this conversation.
Pathetic, but at the same time, like, this is not a woman's problem. So the suggestion was for men to create their own communities and their own groups to express their own grievances and to support each other, where you guys can come together and discuss your problems. You know, are you struggling with anger? Are you struggling with loneliness? Are you struggling with career things? You know, like, find your motivation within your own community. Because women can be a motivator, sure, but it's also not our responsibility, you know? Because the ask was, okay, we're supposed to lower our standards dating shorter guys, which was not really a standard we should have had in the first place. And then, you know,
You see what I'm saying? Like, okay. Like, I don't like to talk about the people that are making these videos or whatever, you know, because they always throw their little stuff in there, right? But, like, I'll give you an example. It's a tale between two extremes. Either you got to be 6'6" or you're 5 foot. The average height for a man is 5'9". What happened to 5, 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7s? You see what I'm saying? Like, most women are short as hell, but women will then want a man, which realistically, a 5'3" woman that weighs 180 pounds shouldn't have a fucking standard about a guy that is 6'4". But women are delusional. Guys know what they qualify for. Women are delusional in believing that they still qualify for a guy that is 6'3", 6'4". You see what I'm saying? And I'm always trying to make sure that I'm being a lot nicer in these conversations now, because I just want to be a nicer person in general. And I'm always going to link back to the content creator because that is the right thing to do. But
less money. So if we're already giving into that, on top of that, we have to do all the emotional labor for another person. You have to be the community because you're dating people who don't have their own communities. So you become that community for another person. We're basically being therapists for partners who won't go to therapy. Like, that's not fair. And the reason that we're encountering these issues is because men are turning their backs on each other.
nope,
One of the big motivators that this guy said
nope.
to be a better man, and, you know, why he's successful and married and happy now, is because his girlfriends was like, I will literally stop being with you. I will stop sleeping with you if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Right? So she had to threaten him to do things that would improve his life. So that's proving that, like, women, when they enter a man's life, is always doing the improving. That certainly has been my experience. Like, if you're not threatening your man to improve, he's not going to do it for himself.
If a woman ever threatens you, listen, I don't give a fuck what this podcast says. If a woman ever threatens you with sex or I'm not doing this, if you don't do this or whatever, get the fuck out of there and don't even entertain it.
And my biggest question is, why not? This is your life. Like, do you just not want this for yourself? I just don't understand that, because all of my own successes and motivations are intrinsic. I never needed to be threatened to be better because I motivated myself.
But what if a guy then said, hey, I'm never going to sleep with you again if you don't lose some weight and get some of the stuff taken out of your chin that obviously is reflective of the rest of you? Like, you know what I'm saying? What you think guys want is completely different. Make sure you guys hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, teach Henley 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.